Welcome to Natasha Alkaline Food Channel. Here, this is where we make easy, straightforward meals following Dr. Sebi's nutritional guide. Today, I'm going to show you my winter haul and what I make with these ingredients. So let's go. I have some sparkling spring water from Crystal Glacier, some chickpeas, some cucumbers, and some zucchini. Squash is really good for the winter, it's in season. Then I bought some leeks. I might cook with this today, might not. Then I have some onions, some bell peppers or peppers in general, red, yellow, any color works. Avocado, can't forget that. Some apples. I use apples in my quinoa video. If you haven't watched that yet, go to my Instagram to watch that. Some king oyster mushrooms. This one's a nice huge one. Some tomatoes. Ginger. Ginger is really good for the winter. It helps keeping break up that mucus. So I've got some tomatoes. I'm thinking about pizza. Pizza is one of my favorite comfort food. And I have a beginner's guide 5-day alkaline printout you can get for free down. Just click the link in the comment below. Some ginger. Ginger is really good for breaking up mucus and overall health of your body. And then I bought some herbs. So this time I got spirulina and nettle leaves and raspberry and of course elderberry. Elderberry is really good for the winter time and making sure you're feeling good. So these are the produce and some herbs, but also you need some other items. So here's all my different spices. So onion powder, basil, ginger, sage, cayenne, thyme, and oregano are usually my go-to ones. I bought some chives to try those out. And then agar powder. I'm thinking about making like a firmer cheese. So using my recipe from my printer's guide, my beginner's guide, I want to try this agar powder with it to make it a firm cheese. And then some chickpea flour, some sea salt, some agave, always making things sweet. Then some quinoa. And then I made some quinoa flour. So later on I'll show you how to make some quinoa flour using a coffee grinder. So my favorite comfort foods are soups. And this here is how I make my veggie broth. So I'm just straining it, getting all the veggie scraps out of it. And then I love pizza. I can live off of pizza basically. And then another comfort food of mine is pot pie. And so since my husband is not in town this week, I think I will make those things. So let's go make some soup first. You would need 1 to 2 parts of cooked chickpeas and spring water. And for these recipes, I use a total of 2 cups of cream. So I blend up 2 cups of chickpeas to 4 cups of spring water. In this video, I did them in batches. So after you blend your chickpeas, you need to strain out the fibers so that you can have a nice smooth cream. So to do that, I use a strainer and then I just separate the liquid from the fibers here. And I did this right in the pot so it's easy to clean up. And then you want to cook it on a high heat. So if you look at the video, at the beginning my heat wasn't high, and so I had to cover it up. And then I went back and I made it hotter to cook it on a high heat. And once it's cooked for about 15 minutes, you should be able to start to get the cream. And also the chickpea liquid will be darker. And you have your cream. You can let it cool or you can use it straight away into the soup. So I decided to show you how it looks when it's done. You see how thick it is? I haven't froze this yet, so you can try it out and see if it freezes well, which I think it will. And it was so yummy. To make this breadsticks, you want to start your steamer. I started my steamer. I had a little bit of water and put the steamer together and put it on the stove. So I poured some chickpea flour with ginger, onion powder, sage, basil, and oregano as my seasoning. I gave that a quick whisk. Then I added 4 tablespoons of spring water, and then I mixed it until it was well combined. And then I formed my dough. This is how you form the dough.
So I divided it into 4 pieces and I rolled them out into long breadstick pieces. So this recipe was based off a recipe I saw how to make vegan hot dog from chickpea flour, and I will link that recipe below. But basically it's just chickpea flour. They use vegan butter and barbecue sauce, and I tried that recipe using alkaline ingredients and it wasn't too bad, so I thought maybe I could make a breadstick from that recipe, so I adapted it to that. And then you want to set them into the steamer, and the steamer will help cook the chickpea flour, and also they get a little puffier with the steamer. And I steamed them for about 15 minutes, but you should pay attention to it. So when it hits the 12 minutes, go and see if it's soft to the touch. If it is, then take it out. I have tested this a different time, and sometimes it went to 15, sometimes went to 12 minutes. And once your breadsticks are done, just put them on a cooling rack until you are done with the soup, and then you can eat it with the soup. While your dough is steaming, you can start making your soup. So I cut up 4 yellow onions into thin slices as much as I could. And then I'm working on using less oil. So I use water to cook my onions, and you want to cook it until they start to brown at the bottom. For these onions, I didn't cook them too long because I knew I was going to blend them up. So you can cook them even longer than what I did here. After you get the onions cooked to your liking, then you add the chickpea cream. So I add 1 cup of chickpea cream. Then you want to add the veggie stock. I use my leftover vegetable peelings and I boil some spring water. That's how I make my veggie stock. And then salt to taste. And then I added 1 bay leaf, or in this case I added 2 because of that small bay leaf. And then I cook it for about 10 minutes until all the ingredients like each other. And then I dished this out to my family. I realized as I was spooling this out that my kids were not going to eat this, seeing the onions whole. So I used my immersion blender and blended it more. And sorry I didn't take a video of that part. But it made it a lot creamier too. So if you want to blend up the onions, if you're not a person who likes the taste of onions, this is a good option to do. My family did eat this up. I was so proud of them because it was like their first alkaline dinner where no one asked for something different or wanted more food. The breadsticks did taste kind of weird. I was thinking next time I might use a little more water so that the chickpeas really get cooked. But overall, it was a very good, delicious meal, and I loved this comfort it gave me. You can also serve this with salad on the side if you like. I had top pie when I was a kid, and so I decided let's try alkaline version. So the first thing you need to do is preheat the oven to 400 degrees. And then you need to make the dough. You can make the dough out of any approved flour, and on my beginner's guide I used chickpea flour as the main flour, and then I was thinking maybe I should make quinoa flour. So I took my coffee grinder and I grind up some quinoa to make quinoa flours. This was so easy. This coffee grinder, I got it for Christmas, but I link a similar one down below. Quinoa flour is so expensive, and quinoa is not as expensive as the flour, so this is a great alternative to keep your budget low. It's just to grind your own quinoa. So after you grind the quinoa, you want to strain it or filter out the big parts that didn't get ground up, so you have a nice fluffy flour. So I needed a half a cup of quinoa flour and a half a cup of chickpea flour. I combined them with some sea salt, onion powder, ginger, and oregano. And then I used 4 tablespoons of chickpea liquid or aquafaba, and then 2 tablespoons of warm water. So if you did not save your chickpea liquid, so after you cook the chickpea, the liquid that's left, if you didn't save that liquid, you can just change the aquafaba to the water. So you'll have a total of 6 tablespoons of warm water. Now this dough doesn't look pretty, but it came out really nice. It had a nice texture and flavor. So I think next time I use this dough when I eat the soup again instead of the breadsticks that I made. So I let this sit while I get the filling ready. So I really want to feed this to my family, and I know that my family loves that texture of chicken, And these king oyster mushrooms, or trumpet mushrooms, some people call it, if you cook it the right way, it does have that texture of meat. So I just cut these up into bite-sized pieces. And then I cut up the zucchini into bite-sized pieces. And then I cut up the red onion into bite-sized pieces also. All the measurements are down below in the description, so if you want the exact measurements, you can go there for them. Okay, now it's time to saute your veggies. You can use oil again, but remember I'm using less oil and just cook it with water. So I cooked my onions down to almost translucent, and then I added the zucchini. I added more water to help cook those zucchinis, and I was looking for it not to be mushy, but to still have some coloring in them. And then I added the king oyster mushrooms, and I cooked them down also. So sauteing these veggies took about 10 minutes, and then I add my spices. I use a teaspoon of thyme. Next, I think I'll use a half a teaspoon. The thyme is very strong. And then 1 teaspoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of ginger powder, and a half a teaspoon of sea salt. So, and you can use more salt or less salt depending on your taste. So I add that and cook that for another 2 to 3 minutes. I don't time my foods most of the time. And then we need the cream. So the chickpea cream, I use a half a cup of chickpea cream here, and I mix it around, let the chickpea cream warm up some. So about a minute of me just getting it all incorporated, and then it was ready for me to put it into the ramekins. So this recipe actually made 4 of these little ramekins. I thought like that wouldn't be enough, but it was plenty, and plus I had a little small size salad with it. I did not spray these ramekins because I was planning on having it eaten right out of them. If you don't have the ramekins, you can use a pan and make a casserole out of it and just roll out the dough in 1 piece instead of rolling it out in 4 pieces. So after you dish equal amounts of the mixture into each ramekin, you'll take your dough and you divide it in 4 pieces. You can be exact if you want. Here I just use my hands to roll out the dough, and it worked out perfectly. But it's up to you how you would like to roll out the dough for each of the ramekins. So dividing the dough. Then I read somewhere that if you add agave with a little bit of water and you brush it on top of your dough, it turns out brown. It's like an egg wash, but not using an egg, of course. And I tried it, and it didn't really come out that great. I think the agave gave it a little sweet flavor to the bread. So I think I'm going to try that out, make the bread sweet and see what happens. And now they're ready to go into the oven. So I cooked them for 15 to 20 minutes at 400 degrees. Basically just cooked them until the dough was done. And so just use a toothpick to check the dough, or you can use your finger and see if it bounces to check that it's done. Just don't burn yourself. So if I was going to rate this did give me that comfort feeling. The thyme kind of overpowered the tasting. And also I think I would have added other veggies than the ones I chose, like mushrooms, give it more of that meaty taste. So I would give this one like a 6 out of 10. The onion soup, I give it a 10 out of 10. We love that one. But this pot pie, I would say is like a 6 out of 10. But it did give me the comfort I needed for how it's feeling. Pizza, pizza, pizza. I love pizza so much. I wanted to see if I can make a meltable cheese. I used 1 cup of spring water and 1 tablespoon of agar, and I brought it to a boil by stirring it constantly so that the agar didn't stick. So what agar is, it's like the vegan version of gelatin. It's made out of seaweed, and it makes things firm. It kind of makes this into a meltable cheese type thing for me. That's what I'm hoping. Cross my fingers. Let's see what happens. So once the agar is activated and it's bubbly and it's kind of sticky, then you need to add the rest of the ingredients to the pot. So I add a half a chickpea cream. You know I love that. And then I add some key lime juice, some onion powder, and some ginger powder. Notice that I added the seasons to the cream and then I added to the mixture, because I made this before where I added the seasons to the agar water and it just didn't come out that well. So adding the seasoning to the cream first, so it incorporates in the cream, and then add it to the agar. I was hoping that it would incorporate better. And then I just cooked this until it looks well combined. I didn't really time myself. I want to say it was like 4 more minutes, maybe even 3 minutes for it to be completely combined. And then once it was completely combined, I poured it into a glass circular shape so that I can have that circular option for my cheese. And then, since I was going to use it for the pizza that I was making like right away, I needed it to cool quickly, so I stuck it in the freezer. You can let this cool by sitting on the counter for about 15 to 20 minutes and then stick it in the refrigerator where it would get hardened. But I wanted to have it harden quick, so I put it in the freezer until it was ready for me to put it on my pizza. Okay, now for the pizza dough. So my oldest daughter is allergic to walnuts, so instead of using walnut milk, I decided to make some quinoa milk. So to make quinoa milk, you add some spring water to the same amount in tablespoons of quinoa. So in this case, I used 1 cup of spring water and 1 tablespoon of quinoa. I blend it, and then I filter out the parts that didn't blend to get my quinoa milk. This is one of my favorite pizza dough to make. It's really easy, no need to roll out anything, straightforward. To my quinoa milk, I added 1 cup of chickpea flour, and then I added some onion powder, sea salt, some ginger, and basil, and I just mixed it until it was well incorporated. I just want that chickpea liquid to be incorporated. So this is more of a runny batter, not a pancake mixture. So I don't want it thick like pancake. I do want it to be a little runnier than pancakes. Then after you have the dough completely mixed, I greased a cake pan, a circular cake pan. This is a 9-inch cake pan. Put some parchment paper at the bottom so it's easy to take out. And then I poured the batter right in there. And then I chopped up some onions, about a half an onion, which I think I used less than a half. And I just sprinkle it through the dough. This gives it another, flavor, another greatness of this pizza, of putting this onions. It doesn't taste oniony batter. It just gives it more ofness, greatness. Oh, can you tell I love this recipe? So I use about a 1/4 cup of that red onion. And then you put it in the oven and you bake it for 15 minutes at 425. So after the 15 minutes, you want to take it out and then you add your toppings. And so the toppings I decided to cut up here are red peppers, some more onions, and some mushrooms. So you put the toppings on top and then you grate that cheese we made. So this cheese looks so pretty. As I was grating it, I should have put a lot more than I did, but it came out nice and shiny. It's firm. It's in my hand very easily, if you can see there. And I just placed it over the pizza, and I should have added extra. You'll see why. So then you'll put this under the broil for 10 minutes. So you want those veggies to get cooked basically. But I put it on the broil so it's quicker to cook them. Here is it done, and you can tell that you barely can see any of the cheese and you barely can taste it too. So I thought I could be fancy and take the whole thing out, but it wasn't really working for me. But at least I tried. So I decided let's just cut it. And as I was cutting this, I realized I didn't put any tomato sauce on this. What was I thinking? I have to let you guys know when I do add a tomato sauce to it of how it comes out. But without the tomato sauce, this is so good. It was so yummy. You can see how the crust is nice and like thick. It's not a thin sliced pizza. It has a thickness to it, which that is my favorite pizza. I just kept eating and eating, and I realized, oh, I didn't even take any pictures. This is so good. Oh, I love the flavor that the crust gives. It's this nice soft dough but not gooey dough, and those toppings were great. Sometimes I put zucchini on top, but I think the only thing I would change here is adding more cheese. Since I didn't add so much cheese, I would give this a 9 out of 10.
I forgot to put some tomato sauce on my pizza, so I made this using the recipe from the 5-day Alkaline journey printout, and I'm just adding it on top. And I'm going to put it in the oven. Even though the cheese that I made didn't work out well, it didn't make a difference. The pizza still tastes good. Just gonna warm this up on my warmer.
Thanks for watching. Comment below, what is your favorite comfort food? So these are some of my favorites. If you do like these type of videos, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to watch more videos on my grocery haul, click the card up here or the link down below. Remember, if you're looking for more alkaline meals, please download my free guide below. Okay, have a good night. Bye.